All right. Good morning to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning also to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, also co creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Thanks so much for joining us wherever you are watching from. As you well know, every week we try to make it a point to give you the goings on in entertainment and pop culture, if you will, in our segment each week that we have known as This Week in Pop Culture, giving you the spark notes, the rundowns of what has happened in entertainment and, as I said, in pop culture. And of course, I'm not alone in talking about these said topics. So I'd like to welcome my co-host, my partner in crime, Mr. Spillman Trueheart, aka Spills. What's going on, sir?
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Horrible news. I found out that I've been telling you guys to join application that might possibly be stealing your personal information and putting it on the dark web so that they can, take over. Apparently,
Wow, that
the
is
people at
a hell of a way to
Pokemon
start.
Go are just
That's
terrible.
a hell of a way to start.
Everything in the future is horrible, ladies and gentlemen. I thought it was just a fun app with cute little Japanese animations. No, they're stealing our personal information, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh man, oh man. So man, did we have, some interesting news that happened this week. We're gonna start first in the world of sports and see if I could pull this up for you guys. Wanted to be able to commemorate a birthday that we had this week for none other than Jason Williams, aka White Chocolate, Jay Will,
White chocolate.
White Chocolate. Um, celebrated his 49th birthday. Now, for the youngsters out there who don't know who Jay Will was, let me bring you up to speed. The West Virginia native attended the now defunct DuPont High School, where he played alongside NFL Hall of Famer wide receiver Randy Moss. Yes, that Randy Moss. And he became the only athlete, this being Jay Will, the only athlete in DuPont team history to reach 1,000 points and 500 assists during his prep career. He was named the West Virginia Player of the Year by USA Today in 1994. And after briefly establishing himself as a star on the Billy Donovan Gators, the star guard was selected seventh in the first round of the NBA draft by the Sacramento Kings, of course. And over his NBA career, he would go on to be known as White Chocolate, securing a spot on the 1999 all rookie first team during his rookie year, and would later win a title as a key piece of the Wade Shaq led Heat in 2006. Now, after a 12-year career, he would retire with the following stats: 10.5 points a game, 2.3 rebounds a game, 5.9 assists, and shooting nearly 40% at 39.8%. Now, Spillman, where does Jay Will rank among your point guards?
I would say Jay Will's maybe a top 75 point guard all time. He's got the chip, obviously, but unfortunately, he was really a role player for his career. He's a great highlight man.
Yeah,
After the Kings got rid of him, they got better. So that's kind of an indictment of him. Mike Bibby was a better point guard than him.
he was.
Um,
He was. I'll give you that.
he was obviously coming off the bench on that Heat team that won a championship, and sure, he was a contributor on the team, but they didn't win or lose based on Williams' play. Um, but one of the greatest ball handlers of all times. His elbow pass.
Insane.
The children today don't know about passing. That man had the elbow pass. He came back with it here in a game. That's the thing that's crazy. He did the elbow pass in a game. I feel like the Kings. He was a great player, but the Kings didn't make that push to match up against my Lakers. Till they got rid of him for Mike Bibby.
Yeah.
But all time great. The film of him and Randy Moss playing together, and that Nike commercial specifically. You remember that Nike commercial?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
With the Dukes of
With
Hazard
yeah,
theme
they
song, just too
mm-hmm.
good, oh boys.
Yep, yep. I remember.
That's
I
a
remember.
classic. I love
Or even
that
a
one.
Nike
So,
commercial. People sleep on a Nike commercial with
oh, the
on the
Nike
ball handle.
dribbling. Boop, boop, boop,
Yeah.
boop, boop,
Doo, doo.
boop.
Yep.
Hey,
Yep.
hey,
He's
yes,
in
for
there.
sure.
He's in
For
there.
sure. And a great NBA storyteller. If you ever hear some of stories he recanted of just, his time with the Heat or his time, in the Randy Moss documentary. Even Jay Will's a great player, a great ambassador for the game, but not the best point guard ever. But you can't go wrong with him. He packs the seats out. The fans love him. I don't have anything bad to say about Jay Will.
I
What do
hear
you
you.
think of Jay Will?
I would agree with you that I don't feel that he is a like top five, top 10 point guard. But I will say that he was one of my favorite players growing up. I did have a Jason Williams jersey because he was just fun to watch. And then a lot of the highlights that he has, just as you mentioned, that he had in the game, a lot of times, coaches are pulling you out of the game when you're doing a lot of that,
Oh yeah, for
like
sure. Those are
those said things
definite.
in the
Come and
game.
sit next to me and think
So
about what you
right,
did, young man.
exactly. A lot of that stuff you would do on the playground, but you wouldn't be able to get away with on the court. And to the credit of I want to say it was Rick Adelman, who was his coach at the time with Sacramento Kings. To his credit, he gave him free reign to kind of let loose in the way that he played. Now, did it always result in winning plays and did it result in turnovers? Yes, but still, it was fun to be able to see him play with a lot of reckless abandon that a lot of other players you weren't seeing play with. So to that, and to be able to always, whenever I feel like whenever he was, whenever a Kings game, when he was playing with the Kings, whenever there was a Kings game, that was must see TV because you knew you want to see something crazy in the game that he would be able to pull off, whether it was with his ball handling, whether it was with his passing, anything along those lines. So shout out to Jay Will, aka White Chocolate. Happy
White
birthday,
chocolate.
happy 49th birthday. Now I'm gonna refresh real quick, but if you wanted to give some final thought spills before I hop into the next sports story that we have, while I take care
I
of
do
business.
want to say that he does have one of the greatest preparation drills of a ball player that you've ever heard of. Jay Will was the originator of mitt dribbling. So, because your hands have so much dexterity when you dribble a basketball, Jay Will said that he would dribble two basketballs with oven mitts on his hands to get his hands stronger and to also bring in a better ball handle. So, if you're a would-be hooper, or you've got a youngster in your life that's got the flavor for basketball, make sure that you teach them some of those things. I don't know if Brandon used any of those tricks. He's got a pretty sick handle, ladies and gentlemen. Don't let this podcast fool you. Brandon's got the handles for sure, um, and is quite slippery with the rock, as they say. But dribbling with a oven mitt is one of the great ways to learn how to dribble, and that's a skill that you could take with you to make you some money. So definitely, if you're preparing to learn how to do that, do it in that way. Jay Will, white chocolate is just one of the greats. You know, anytime you see one of our Caucasian brothers and sisters at the court with a little bit of flavor in their game, that's what we call them. So it's very good to celebrate Jay Williams, all-time great. I was looking at this and wondering which Jay Williams we were talking about, because there's the one Jay Williams that is the sportscaster who career was cut short. So I didn't imagine it was him. Then there's the infamous Jason Williams, but then this is the most famous Jason Williams. I would think. I think this is the most famous Jason Williams. I don't know if you can hear me, Brandon, but do you think that this Jason Williams is the most famous NBA Jason Williams? And I'm still not. Brandon's not back, so we're just going to keep going on Jay Williams. I'm sure his time with Chris Webber and Vladi. And a young Peja Stojakovic was very formative. And then obviously he moved to the Magic and then up to the Miami Heat. Great career. One of the great point guards of our era, our youthful era, I would dare say. Yeah. So I was just saying, which of the Jason Williams do you think is the most famous? This one, the sportscaster, or the other one? Your mic's not on. Turn on your mic. Nope, can't hear you. Nope, nope, nope. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Live broadcast. We have technical difficulties sometimes. Sometimes you see my baby. Sometimes Brandon loses his sound. That's how it goes. Sometimes, ladies and gentlemen.
No,
There
no.
we go. Now we can hear you.
All right, all right. So I was hearing everything you were saying, by the way, Spillman, while you having some technical difficulties, but um in regards to all the Jason Williams that you reference, it's unfortunate that Jason Williams, the Duke Jason Williams, doesn't get enough of his flowers because
He might have been the best out of the three,
he was the best out of the three. The
for
irony is
sure.
that he was the best out of the three, but still, you just can't deny how how impressive, as you said, the vision and the handles were for Jason Williams. You know, you look at Jason Williams and you don't see, it's not a type of thing where you're like, okay, this guy has, like, ridiculous handles. He can he has eyes on the back of his head, being able to accomplish these passes that seem impossible. So again, shout out to Jason Williams, incredible player. Even though he, out of the three that you mentioned, he's probably not the best. He's probably number two out of those three Jason Williams that you mentioned. He still had an incredible career, and he's still, I feel like he's still an icon within
He's the
within
only
the,
one with the
the NBA.
nickname. He's the only one
Yeah,
with the nickname. So that
yeah.
automatically makes you the most famous one. Because if you get a nickname, that must mean you famous. White
Indeed,
chocolate.
indeed, indeed. So shout out again to White Chocolate. Happy birthday once again. Happy 49th. Now, other than what we had with Jason Williams, we of course still have the what is it, the NBA Cup happening right now as we speak. And I gave you guys a breakdown of that last week. So I will point upwards. I will put a link up there to give you a breakdown of the rules. As you know, it happens every Tuesday and Friday for this in-season tournament that they have in the NBA happening right now. It's about to wrap up its initial group round, or group round that they are carrying out among the three individual groups that they have in the Western Conference and in the Eastern Conference. Now, we did have some updates that occurred in regards to the cup, and we had an elimination of one team, and we had the advancement of another to the knockout rounds. In Group C of the Western Conference, the Pelicans are now eliminated with a 1-2 record, while my Golden State Warriors, who now reside in that group, are now the only team to secure their spot in the knockout rounds with a 3-0 record, advancing as the winner of Group C.
Do
So,
you guys hear the
Spillman.
pride? Do you hear the pride? Do you hear the pride? Do you see that? You see that? Last year we were talking about, man, that's a Mickey Mouse trophy. Don't nobody believe in that trophy. But now
Yeah, I
the
know. I
Warriors
know.
are winning.
I know.
And
I
we're
know.
like, ooh.
But
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 you
I
know,
will still say, while I am proud of my Warriors, I will still say I will take a regular chip over the NBA chip if I had my choice. But Spillman, what are your
for
thoughts
sure.
on what we've seen from the NBA Cup thus far? Because your team is still in it. They're at the top of their respective. They're at the top of their respective group.
Yes. Where are your clothes?
Yeah. So gotta give them 1 second. Hold on. But it, as I said, my team is the only team to advance on to the next round. I'm gonna try to see if I can pull up the standings right now for the NBA Cup. Give me one sec. See if we can pull that up for you guys so that way you guys can see where things stand. Because as I mentioned just a moment ago, if you guys aren't aware, the Lakers are the team of Spillman. And when we're talking about the Lakers, I know I always kind of harp on them and the dysfunction of things that are happening this season. But to their credit, they're playing pretty solid this year thus far. And on top of that, too, they also are at the top of the standings in their respective group. So let me see if I can pull that up. Give me one second. Here we go. So, yeah, in our respective standings as it stands now, we have, as I mentioned before, we have, I'm gonna make my way down. We have our three groupings. So East Group A, East Group B, and East Group C. We have our Orlando Magic sitting on top of Group A with a 2-0 record. We have Group B with the Milwaukee Bucks, also undefeated with 2-0 record. And we have the Hawks with only one loss, sitting on top Group C of the East. Now, for our West, impressively enough, we do have the Houston Rockets still undefeated with their current within their current group of Group A, and we have the Lakers sitting on top of Group B with an undefeated record. So, as it stands right now, as I mentioned, the Golden State Warriors are the only team right now to advance on to the next round, that being the knockout rounds. But it looks like the Lakers are in good standing to potentially make it out of their group as the winner of their group, to represent that group going forward into the knockout round as well. I know we had Spillman. He stepped away just for a moment. See if we have him back. Looks like we do. So hold on one second. But Spillman, we do have the Lakers back. They are sitting on top, as you can see here in West Group B. Are there any surprises thus far from what you've seen, just overall, not just with your team, but just with other teams based on where they stand in their respective groups?
I think the most important thing that we're seeing overall is how much you guys are actually caring about this cup.
Yeah,
Last year, in the inaugural year, the Lakers won the championship of the NBA Cup. That one was a little bit poo-pooed because they were like the Lakers won, no one cares about this. It's a tournament in November/December when no one cares about the NBA
yeah, it was
season
still new.
anyway.
It was a still new
But
concept.
the fact that these teams are actually playing real hard, and using it to congeal their lineups and stuff, I think this is a good thing because you know there is a big difference between playoff basketball and regular season basketball, and this gives a team chances to work with their new lineups. And I think even case in point with the Warriors, this has helped your Warriors to add their new players in, see where you could fit in with Buddy Hield and those new acquisitions. I've seen a lot of good play out of you guys. Um,
I mean, there's
it's
something to be said. There's something to be said about that deep lineup strategy. I think that's been working in our favor. I don't know how long we're going to be able to keep it up, but I would just say just keep it going as long as you can because it seems to be
yeah.
working.
And I think that having a team with 9 or 10 players that you can actually play throughout a season helps you make it through a season longer.
Yeah,
Generally, the better teams have 9 or 10 good players. If you don't have 9 or 10 good players, you're not going to make it very far in the group play. So, it's just one of those things, or in the playoffs, even because, an injury can really derail a season if you only have 6 players or 7 players. Famously, the Los Angeles Clippers of Chris, the Lob City Clippers, really only had 6 good players. So,
yeah, yeah,
by the end of the year, your guys are gassed. The injuries start to pile up because they're just playing too many minutes.
yeah, yeah.
The
And
Knicks
then
broke down last year
yeah,
because
and
of that.
I'll say this is that to the credit of Kerr, and I'll be objective about this. And I love my team. In comparison to some of the other teams that we had, I don't believe that they're as talented. I don't believe that there are that we're as deep as people may think. I just think that it's more so a matter of evoking that confidence into your players that's getting them to play far beyond what it may seem like they're capable of playing on paper. Because outside of Steph, outside of Draymond, outside of Hield, and a few other role players that we've had in prior title years, there are a couple of other players in there that on any other team I feel like they would disappear. But again, it is so important to be able to instill confidence in your players, and when you do so, they're going to go above and beyond with their effort to be able to play for you. So I think that is more so a testament to not only Kerr's coaching, but just that how important it is, that idea of being able to instill confidence in your players, and how important their roles are.
For sure. And this might also it adds to questions like how are these coaches still having their jobs in some of these places? Like we see that they can't win a tournament or win a game when we need them to win a game. So how are they keeping a job? So this may necessitate some moves that need to be made.
Yeah, because let's be honest, I feel like the only thing that is kind of keeping the Bucks above water with Rivers, well, because yeah, with Doc Rivers, is the fact that from what we saw in their record, they're still standing undefeated in their respective group, but overall, in terms of their season, they're underperforming and they're not performing at the level that people are expecting them to play. O-
Mhm.
Obviously, people knew that whenever you have huge changes with your lineup and you bring in another superstar, there's going to be some growing pains, right, in that first year. But after that first year is done, the expectation is that you are ironing out a lot of those wrinkles, so to speak, and figuring it out and being able to understand how to play together. And still, at this point, we haven't demonstrated in this second year that they're together their ability to be able to kind of figure it out how their respective games are going to play together. So uh the Pelicans are still unfortunately abysmal,
Their
and
star spends more time getting inked than he does playing basketball. I don't. I'll
yeah,
never understand that.
yeah,
Personally, I like to see guys do things to express themselves and stuff. But if all you are is expression, you have no substance. You got to have the substance. That's one thing that Michael Jordan always said. He said, "I would have never sold no shoes if I didn't play basketball good." Like, let's be for real. You
yeah,
can slap all the marketing campaigns you want on people. You can make them look cool. You can have all kinds of stuff. But if you're not going to show up and play the games and win the games, because that's why
yeah,
we play. In
yeah.
the words of the great Herm Edwards, we play to win the game. So if you're not gonna play to win the games, what is it? So that's just
But I do want to give a shout out to a couple of teams that I didn't anticipate that they would be at the top of their respective groups.
the
I want to give
magic.
a shout out I'm going to give it a shout out to a couple of teams. So the Magic, of course, the Detroit Pistons, because the Detroit Pistons are sitting at 2-0 above Group B, and they're tied with the 2-0 record with the Bucks at the top of Group B. And then I also want to give a shout out to the who was it, the Houston Rockets. They're sitting at the top of Group A of the Western Conference, and they are the only team that is undefeated in that group. And this time last year, if someone told me that they would be sitting on top of having any level of success in the NBA Cup, I wouldn't have believed it. So there have been a couple of surprises there. I would even say even my Warriors are surprised that I felt like they would be a solid team, but they are, as I said, uh, overperforming what people are expecting of them. But any last thoughts before we move on to our film and TV news?
Nope, we can move right on.
All right, cool. But what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments what you thought of the two respective stories that we had. Whether it was what we had with the birthday shout out to Jason Williams, aka White Chocolate, or the NBA Cup as it stands right now, where the standings are, and whether there are any teams that you perceive are far exceeding what people are expecting of them, or far or performing far below what people are expecting them to do. All right, so that's going to do it for what we have on our sports end, but I want to be able to dive into film and TV. So give me 1 second. I'm going to pull that up for us. First thing that I wanted to talk about was the 15th governor 15th governor awards. Let me pull that up for you guys. See if we can get that up here. All right, there we go. So if you guys are not familiar with the governor's awards, it was held last week in Hollywood at the Ray Adobe Ballroom. And to go into more detail about the Governor's Awards, they are essentially an awards that honor extraordinary distinction and lifetime achievement in cinema and exceptional contributions to the state of motion pictures, arts, and sciences. The Academy, the Academy's a board of governors, so this is affiliated with the Academy Awards. That award show as well. But the Academy's board of governors hold a special meeting in the spring of each year to select these governor award recipients. And in terms of the actual winners, we have up to four governor awards that may be presented in a given award years. In a given award year in the following categories. We have what is known as the Irving G. Thalberg Memorial Award. And this is an award that's presented to a creative producer whose body of work reflects a consistently high quality of motion picture production. At this year's show, that award went to producers Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli. The other award that we have that are a part of these governor awards would be the Gene Herschelt Humanitarian Award, and this humanitarian award is given to an individual in the motion picture industry whose humanitarian efforts have brought credit to the industry by promoting human welfare and contributing to rectifying inequities. And the person who would go on to win that award at this year's show was Richard Curtis. And then last but not least, we had our honorary award. And this honorary award is given to extraordinary lifetime achievement, exceptional contributions to the motion picture, art, and sciences of any discipline, or outstanding service to the academy. And so these honorary awards, which two were given out, they were given to Quincy Jones, who, as you well know, recently passed away, and also casting director Juliet Taylor. So, Spillman, what are your thoughts on the winners of these Governor Awards that happened last week? Used to be a part of the Oscars, but now they've separated it from that award show and made it its own thing. As I mentioned, it's the 15th Governor Awards. What are your thoughts on the winners, and are there any ones that stand out to you?
I think that these Governors Award winners are very well deserved. Obviously it's great to see that they honored the great Quincy Jones. It's interesting that they've separated this because these are the awards that people will say that you're not an EGOT because of. So I appreciate that they like have made it a separate award thing because, like, if I got an Oscar honorarily at the a governor Oscar at the regular Oscars. I'd be like, I don't care what y'all gonna put this uh this asterisk on my Oscar. I was at the award show. It was on TV. I won an Oscar. So, people really care about the EGOTs. It was really cool that they had Coleman Domingo hosting it. He seems like he's all over everything. That's good for him. It's good to see, one of the brothers doing very well. It was nice to see Rashida Jones on stage to accept for her father. I'm sure that was very heavy on her heart.
Yeah.
So close to her father passing away. But just congratulations to all of the winners. Um, they seem to be a lot of people who are mainstays of the Hollywood scene. So it's good to give people flowers. The movie making business is a hard business. For people to stay this long to be able to earn a governor's award is very good to see. So, um, I'm just really excited to see these honorees. And I feel like this is the Oscar. If the Oscars gave me, because that's the statue. Look right there. That's the
Hmm.
statue right there. That should count for an EGOT. If I get one of these and I'm more a music guy, because it's hard to get an Oscar if you don't make film, but it's also hard to get a Grammy if you don't really make music. So you might win a million Oscars or something, but if you can't make a Grammy, you can't make a Grammy. So they got the statue right there. How don't that count for an EGOT? But I
I hear you. I
this
hear you. I hear you.
I
So
don't know.
I'll say this. Shout out to everyone who won their awards. I'm glad that there is a space to be able to do this, because so oftentimes, whenever, I hate to say it, and I mean, there is a, a sense of this whenever we have it in an award show. While folks do honor the body of work of respective artists, sometimes it can kind of fall underneath the what's the word that I'm looking for? Sometimes it can kind of get overshadowed by the the other awards that are there, whether we're talking about like best actor, best actress, a lot of those acting awards, whether we're talking about best director, best picture, a lot of those awards can overshadow some of the other awards that we have during the Oscars. And so I'm glad that there is a separate space to be able to honor and highlight these artists who have dedicated their entire careers to the craft, to their craft, and are now receiving their flowers for that body of work, instead of it being overshadowed by other awards. I'm glad that this has provided a separate space to be able to recognize how important their input and their work have meant to the craft. And in speaking to that, obviously among all of the artists that did win, Quincy Jones, of course, is right up there. We talked about his body of work in a prior show. I will point my finger up there. I will, because I'll, after the fact, put up the link for that show in which we talked about Mr. Jones's body of work more explicitly and more specifically. But yeah, like I'm happy for those who were able to win, and also I'm happy that uh folks that there is a separate space to be able to recognize their work, where the focus is specifically their these artists respective bodies of work, versus kind of having to get swallowed up with other awards that may happen. And then on top of that too, I feel like I'm glad that this has provided a separate space as well, because this is no disparaging thing to the award show, but sometimes if the award show is very long, sometimes folks can kind of get glazy eyed as the show is progressing, and energy wise, are more focused on having the show end, because they're waiting for the show to conclude, versus being able to appreciate each of the awards that are being presented and those that are winning them, if that makes sense.
That does. Yeah, I just we should call these the Oscar Cup. I think that if they called this the Emirates Oscar Cup, it will make more sense to people. Oh no, it's not a championship, it's the Oscars Cup, and they've won an Oscar, but it's a cup Oscar. It's not the Oscar championship. So that would, I think, help the people to understand a little bit better.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. But congratulations again to those who won their awards, the Governor Awards at the 15th annual edition of that show. We're going to switch gears into a trailer that dropped this weekend for a little known franchise known as Alien. Perhaps you're aware of this little small horror science fiction franchise. I'm gonna see if I can pull up the said trailer that we had for that show. If you give me 1 minute, which is going by the title known as Reflections, and it will make sense in a minute as to why. All right. So, Spillman, let me know if you're able to see it when you're in, because I know sometimes we've been having a little bit of a glitch when I've watched it after the shows after the fact to see if
All right, we can
the
see it. We can
share.
see it here.
Cool, cool, excellent. So I'm gonna play it for you guys, and we're gonna talk about it.
In 2120, Mother Earth is expecting.
All right. So real quick tease that they give us, right, of what to anticipate from this series. Of course, Reflections. They have the clever tagline, "Mother Earth is expecting," but they do give us some hints to the show. They give us a hint of the timeline, which is from what you saw in there, 2020, or should say, I'm sorry, not 2020, 2120, excuse me. And if folks know their timeline, this happens just a couple of years before the events of Alien, which places this after Prometheus and also places this after Alien Covenant. So, Spillman, we have this show, highly anticipated. We just recently had a Aliens film arrive this year with Alien Romulus. Great response to that, well deserved based off of what was accomplished by Fede Alvarez. What are your thoughts on this series and what the potential is?
I have one question about this show. How much
Yes.
money did it cost them to get the aliens actually on Earth? Because I feel like the aliens always be out there. They
Yeah.
always be in space, and you come up to them, and be like, "Oh no, it's aliens here." But on this one, oh no, it's aliens here, and that's a whole different wrinkle to the franchise because they always hint at maybe these things are supposed to be on Earth. Maybe they're coming here. Maybe. I feel like that's a very prescient topic for the way that people talk in the world about aliens. So to me, it's very interesting that the aliens have finally come to Earth. Even like with the Aliens versus Predator movies, they had them in like Antarctica. But Antarctica is Earth, but it's also not Earth because don't nobody go down there. You don't go down to Antarctica, so you don't really know. That there's a whole island and there's water and stuff. Them aliens ain't getting off that water to come and get us because they in Antarctica. You ain't never seen no penguin. You've never in your life been afraid that a penguin was gonna come and eat your children. But now that they on Earth, they might be like in New York City or something, jump up on us or something. So that's very interesting. I wonder what that means for the Earth. It's very interesting. I'm sure that there was a lot of money paid to be the first place to have aliens in a regular scene because you got to imagine how much money they're gonna save on set pieces when they can just use the regular old sets from Hollywood instead of using sets that are designed like um the Grieger style things with all the weird aliens type motifs and whatnot. But it's very interesting to see. I'm interested in this to see where they go with this. But it sounds like they're gonna be putting aliens and people on Earth, and that's extremely scary. Because I just think because like whenever they go to the space station, it's after the aliens ate everybody or put eggs in their chest. So you can imagine if they could eat all the people on a space station, why can't they eat all the people on Earth? Will they run out of people? Is it like a thing where, like, if it's too many deer, the wolves can't eat all the deer, so then the wolves go extinct or something? Who knows? We shall see.
We shall see indeed. I guess the thing that I'm most curious about, first off, I am glad that they kind of wrapped up or closed that gap of where the project took place, because I know at one point while the project was still being done and while it was still in production, there was a lot of speculation. Okay, does this take place before Prometheus? And if it does take place before Prometheus, does that really make sense within the context of the timeline? Because with Prometheus, they didn't really have an idea of who these aliens were. So how could you already be exposed to the aliens if we're going to space to find out who they are? Like, it wouldn't make sense. So by placing this after the events of Prometheus, that actually gives them some license to be able to bridge that gap of what transpired in Prometheus. Well, not even Prometheus. I'm sorry, with Covenant, with it taking place after the events of Covenant, that provides an opportunity to be able to determine, okay, what transpired in Covenant that brought us here. Is the ship that we have in the series the same ship that we find David in at the end of Covenant? For those that haven't seen that film, I don't want to spoil the specifics of it, but I'll just say David ends up on a spaceship and things transpire, or things are implied to have transpired by the end. So that gives you a platform or jumping off jump off point to be able to continue the story. Will they do it in another film, or will they use this series to be able to fill in those gaps of what happened in the film that would have taken place chronologically before the events of this series? Another thing that I'm really looking forward to is the prospect of other variants of the xenomorph. I feel like in many of the film series that we've had, we've only really been exposed to a couple of variants of the alien, of the xenomorph. And what I mean by that is, those that know the lore of Alien and how the xenomorph works, whatever hosts they are born from determines what variation of that alien you're going to get. The more commonly one that we're aware of, that is the standard one, is the xenomorph that is birthed through a human. But we've seen it in other films where, because of the initial host, that determines what characteristics that alien would have. So, like, give me an example. In Alien 3,
The
the host
dog.
was a dog. So,
Yeah.
because this was a dog, you had what came to be known as a runner alien, which was on all four legs. It wasn't bipedal, it was a quadruped, and it moved on all four legs. Now, I'm gonna go a deep cut on you guys. That those that have seen the director's cut, the original idea was not for it to be in a dog. The original idea was for it to be in a bull. So, I mean, you still had the idea of it being on all four legs, but it would have, characteristics that were more associated with a bull. So with this series, just like we would have with the alien toys, because I feel like we only get a tease of it with the toys and with some of the other medium that we've had with the aliens, like the arcade game. I don't know if anyone remember the arcade game that gives us a semblance of other variants, but hopefully with this series that provides a platform for us to be able to delve into other variants, because with the series you're able to dive deeper into the lore of a given property versus only having a finite amount of time to be able to do so. And then also it allows us also to dive deeper into Whaling Utani. Like we always have this corporation, uh the shadow of this corporation over the goings on, or the plot that's happening in a given alien film, but we're never ever really able to see the inner workings of the corporation. So I feel like this series will give us an opportunity to do that.
And I've heard fan arguments that the Tyrell Corporation from Blade Runner is the same corporation from the aliens. So maybe they'll explore that angle.
Maybe.
Both have aliens in them. Both have androids rather than aliens. And when the androids bleed, they got that milky blood that's not really blood. So
And both Ridley Scott.
I don't know. I think that this might finally be like the. And
The yeah,
again, how much money did they pay to actually have these two franchises cross? I feel
right.
like that would be one of them ones that I'd be like, hey man, I need 500 of them things at least. So
Yeah, so no,
Hulu's
I'm
got money,
definitely
so that'll be very interesting.
definitely
A lot of the streaming platforms are doing more with these kind of shows and stuff to separate themselves from the traditional media. Recently, the Tyson what's the boy's name? The Tyson fight recently was
yeah.
a foray into
Paul.
that.
Paul. Yeah.
Paul, yeah, the Tyson Paul fight was a foray into that. They're going to have an NFL games over Christmas on Netflix. So these companies really trying to make their bid into stepping into the realm of the major networks. So that's very interesting to me. I like to see this kind of stuff. See, we get a lot into inside baseball on this podcast, and that's
We
one of
do.
those inside baseball type of things that I wonder, like, is this them trying to say, no, we're about to take over for HBO and all these other ones? Because they've been trying to do that and they've not really been successful because they haven't had properties like this that would make you have to watch their channel. Like they've had their own stuff, but they need to have this kind of content for sure.
For sure. For sure. And with that being said, I want to dive into the next part of what we have in this film and television segment of our show. And I wanted to dive into Pamela Jayden, who many folks know as the voice of Milhouse from The Simpsons.
One of the
Uh,
goats, ladies and gentlemen.
she announced, or I should say, Fox um, uh, announced this past week that today's Tonight Show would be her very last episode after 35 years of portraying the role of Milhouse. And she's done some other secondary characters for The Simpsons as well, but her primary one is Milhouse. Spillman. 35 years is a hell of a time. That's more a good deal of our lifetimes, our respective lifetimes. So, what are your thoughts on Jayden, you know, hanging up the Millhouse persona, and no longer being that voice that we've come to know and love from The Simpsons.
The Simpsons has run so long now that characters, people have, the voice actors have gone on into the immortal coil. They've just flat out retired. It's just interesting to see where they've all gone.
And I
Um,
apologize, Pamela Hayden. I apologize, Pamela Hayden.
Pamela
I don't
Hayden
know why I'm
is
saying Jayden.
yeah, Pamela Hayden is one of the goats. My favorite character of hers obviously is Jimbo Jones.
Yes.
Jimbo, because like one of my favorite interactions was I've seen this a lot on the internet where people were like, Bart walks out into the front yard and all the other children from school see him in his pajamas, and Jimbo goes like, "Nice pajamas, Simpson. Did your mom buy them for you?" And then Bart is like, "Well, yeah. Who else would I make
All right.
trouble for?" And he's like, "You win this round, Simpson." So just a great talent, a great talent. She's been on the show since the beginning. Sorry, ladies
Yeah,
and gentlemen, hold on.
you're good. You're good. So I will continue that sentiment and just say that, man, like, so oftentimes when we're talking about anything that deals with voice work, a lot of times for it's not unheard of for a character when we're talking voice work. It's not unheard of for a character to either retire or to move on from a character after a certain number of years, after 5 years, after 10 years, maybe even after 15 years. But to be able to portray a character for more than a generation, 30 plus years, 35 years, is incredible to be able to have that longevity with a given character. And in today's landscape, when we're talking about voice actors and portraying different characters, that's not seen as often. As I said, there a lot of times in this day and age, in this landscape, there's a lot more movement and fluidity when it comes to a person taking on a respective character and then maybe just having a stint after a short period of time and then moving on to another character. So when we're talking about those icons, she is right up there because it is really is rare in this day and age to have voice actors who are taking on the voices of these characters for that that long of a period. So again, kudos to Pamela for her body of work of what she has brought to the world of The Simpsons. It's unfortunate that that to have you gone. I wish you all the best, and or should say we wish her all the best in all of her future endeavors of what she does next. But we definitely will have feel something missing of not having her a part of that ensemble with The Simpsons. So make sure that you guys are checking out The Simpsons tonight on tonight's show. As I said, it will be her very last in terms of her work on that show. All right, so we are going to switch gears to our main story, and that deals with Cape Fear, which you saw in the title. So I'm going to put that up for you guys now as you saw it as our background, and I will go into a little bit of details about this said series that will be making its way to Apple TV Plus. So it was this past Monday that it was revealed that Apple TV Plus had given a series order to the series adaptation of Cape Fear with Javier Bardem set for the lead role of uh, Katie. So, per the official logline, and this is in an article in Variety, a storm is coming for happily married attorneys Amanda and Steve Bowden when Max Caddy, a notorious killer from their past, gets out of prison. Now, if you guys are familiar with the film adaptation, you'll know that it was portrayed by the iconic Robert De Niro, but can't go wrong with Javier Bardem in this iconic role. Spillman, let's see if we have him back.
I'm
Oh,
back.
he
I'm
step away.
back.
Okay, see him had to
So
step away for a moment. But what are your thoughts on this series, and what are your thoughts on Javier Bardem taking on the iconic role that was portrayed by Robert De Niro.
I think that also Cape Fear was another movie where Gregory Peck was in it. I think that that was a, because I know Cape Fear is a remake. So, people who want to say they do a lot of remakes, this is an original remake of an original remake. So I
Right.
won't give this as much as I will give like when they remake or they use like Apple Computers as a movie to make an Apple Computer movie or something like that. Like that's a little bit different. Or Schwinn Bike, we're making a Schwinn Bike movie or something like that. That's a little bit
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I will say that these are very similar points in like Javier Bardem's career and Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro was very well known in 1992 as a guy who was in horror movies or intense thrillers, having starred in things like Taxi Driver and stuff.
And that was
So
actually 91, but go ahead.
yeah. So to me, I think that this is a great casting of the actors in Hollywood right now. I think one of the most intense characters of that is Javier Bardem. His work on No Country for Old Men is one of the most terrifying things that have happened, like terrifying villain characters that's happened in the last 20 years of cinema to me. I can't think of anybody that was more menacing. The whole scene with him with the coin flip, like, everywhere he shows up, he started telling people about a coin flip. And then you feel like, oh, this dude is so bad, he might just murder me on a coin flip. So that was very interesting. So I just think that this is a great casting. I don't know how I feel about something that was a 2-hour movie being turned into a series. That might be a little too long. It's like, hold on, they don't know. This might be episode 8. They don't know this dude about to murder them. It's been 8 episodes of this foolishness. It's been weeks. We know it's been weeks. So it's just like
Right.
it's kind of it's
Right.
far. I get that they want to expand upon the universe, and that's where the money is with expanding the universe. But it's a 2-hour movie. There's only, and it's not like this is the most cerebral person ever, and it's so many layers we gotta get. It's like, no, he broke out of prison. He trying to kill us. It's a Sideshow Bob episode to essentially. So it's just like to go back to the Simpsons reference, but it's like 8 episodes, 10 episodes of this show. That's a lot to see. But Apple's got money for this kind of stuff, so I don't know. Maybe they can make it interesting, but I just worry that it'll just drag a little bit. I don't know.
No, and I'm so glad. See, this is why we friends
We
spill.
locked in,
We
twin.
so so like that was exactly what my issue is. I'll start first with the things that I feel they have going in their favor, right? You can't go wrong with having an award-winning actor in the role. This- Javier Bardem is one of the best working actors right now in the industry. So you can't go wrong there, right? So good, check. The next part of it is a lot of times when you are casting for a said project, a lot of times when you can secure a big name for your project, everything else kind of falls into place. You're able to use it as leverage business wise to be able to secure the the amount of money that you're going to have for the project, to get it green lit obviously, and also to bring other talent to the show. So again, it's a big coup to be able to get Bardem because that allows you to do all of those things. So it'll allow you to attract other actors that are at that same caliber because they're like, oh, Javier Bardem is in this. Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah, I'd be interested in it, to be a part of it, which is not going to be the case if maybe they got someone who is like a no-name actor to be a part of it. It would have been trickier to secure other talent, other acting talent, to be able to secure the necessary budget for a project like this. Regardless of what you think of how much resources Apple has, that is not going to change. You still need to have appropriate pieces to start with to bring everything into place, and to have a talent like Bardem is going to help you do that. Now, the negative part of it, we were talking about Alien just a moment ago, right? Alien is a vast universe. yeah, that we've had a lot of films on it, but there's so much lore that's a part of it that that you can do anything with it. And it spans that film franchise spans over a couple of 100 years. If you don't believe me, if you remember Alien Resurrection, that took place more than like 100 years past the 100 plus years or 200 plus years past the timeline of like the first three Alien films. There's so much you can do in that little pocket of time. We just had Alien Romulus, right? That took place between Alien and Aliens because you had a block of time there to be able to explore the Alien franchise. And again, also with the lore of the aliens in and of themselves, even in the time that we've had the Alien franchise, there's still been yet to be elements of that franchise that we haven't explored with the xenomorph itself. So there's plenty of stuff there to be able to mine, if you will, to do an entire series. And it could go on for as long as they would like. Now, when we're talking about Cape Fear, that is not the case. It is you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Those of you out there that know the story, it's a relatively finite one-off story. It's not something that, as you said, Spillman, requires us to, spin a 8 or 10 episode story arc to go through. And even if that is the case, I can only see it as a mini series, as a one-off.
A
You know,
four parter, maybe a four parter.
I think that they could stretch it past 4 episodes. The only reason being is because you can, delve into the relationship of the attorney and Bardem's character of Caddy. You can delve into that initial relationship before he gets released and starts terrorizing the family. Like, I feel like you could spend maybe 3 or 4 episodes doing that. So I feel like you could stretch it enough within maybe 7 or 8 episodes within the context of a mini series. But to go into a season 2 and a season 3, like, where you're like, okay, you telling me he hasn't caught them already? You telling me he hasn't captured this family?
Ended up back in jail or something. He
Right.
didn't. He didn't get off by
And then once he's
somebody.
defeated, once that story arc is done, what he gets released again, like he escapes again, like it it doesn't make any sense unless they figure out a clever way to be able to highlight that. Maybe they turn into a Elseworlds thing where he trains, he mentors other people to go after them. But even then, I feel like it's a
That
stretch.
sounds so crazy. That would not
Yeah.
happen in real life. You can't get your minions to go and get your old enemies. That's not how
But
it works.
even then, it feels like such a stretch. So like that is the thing that I am really skeptical of. It you have great people a part of it. You have the resources. I should say you have a company that would have the resources to be able to do it justice. But is it something that could logically be a series? I'm not sure of. So
I feel like they
um,
should bring back the TV movies. This is where that genre worked, where you could just do a one-off movie because they don't do those very much anymore. It's hard to do something like this in a long series. Maybe they'll do it in a homage to like the true crime documentaries, and they'll
yeah.
delve more into Caddy's childhood, but then we're going to get an episode about somebody child abusing Javier Bardem, and that's going to be weird. It's one thing to talk about child abuse that happens in real life, it's another thing to make up a fictional character who pure evil in the movies, but you humanize them and then they're going to make him an anti-hero. So I'm just concerned that you can't really turn a 2 hour movie that's very linear. It's a linear story. Man breaks out of prison, tries to kill his lawyer and his family
Yeah.
near Cape Fear, Maine. I think it's in Maine. Cape Fear is in Maine, I think.
Lisa, yeah.
Because I think
If
if it's
memory
Stephen
serves,
King,
yeah. If
if it's a
memory
Stephen
serves, yeah.
King story, it's in Maine. Because all his stories are in Maine. But like that's a one-way story. That's like if they made a miniseries of Shawshank Redemption, that would be crazy. Like, what are we really talking about? Are we just really going into the minutia of them being in the jail? Like, it
But
just
see, I don't know. Like, I feel like with Shawshank Redemption, there is enough there where you could, because outside of the characters, the prison I feel is a character itself too. So there is enough. I feel like there would be more to mine there than there would be with this story, because with Shawshank Redemption, you can go into the prison, you can go into the lore of some of the characters, because we did have an ensemble of characters who were all like unique inmates, and you could delve into their respective characters a little bit more. So I feel like there would be more to mine there than there would be with this show, or with this story, because outside of what you have with that relationship and the family, I don't think that there is enough there to stretch beyond a mini series type of format. I feel like with what you're talking about, at least with that, you could talk about, okay, how the warden, came to be the warden of that place. Maybe there was some type of Game of Thrones related element, office politics that happened where he came into that role. Um, Maybe either similarly with Boggs, right? Shout out to Mark Rolston, friend Mark Rolston, who played Boggs. I hailing from Baltimore, born and raised in Baltimore, but um, with Boggs, there's something there where you could talk about how that character came to be at that prison, how that villain came to be there, and how he rose within the ranks of being the threat that he became within that prison. You could get into all of that before our main character even steps foot into Shawshank Redemption. Like you could like save his arrival at Shawshank Redemption for like season two. Like it could be a tail end thing in season one. It could open up what happens in season two. Like I feel like you have enough there where you could do something like that, because the prison is also a character, and what happens within it is, enough story there for it to work. So I don't know. Maybe they'll surprise me when I see the trailer, where you are seeing something there that allows you, or they set up some element plot wise that allows you to be able to stretch it into something that could last for a couple of seasons. But right now, I don't see it. I really don't see it. I don't see how it can be stretched beyond that. While you have, like I said, you have all the elements in place to make it a good project on paper. I don't know how you'll be able to extend the story past that element that you would need for that. So I know Spillman stepped away just for a moment. We'll have him back in a second. I'll get his final thoughts, and then we will wrap it up here. But Spillman, I will punt it over to you. I know you commented on it. I guess you wanted to briefly
I
give
mean, we've said it. Cape Fear. It's a great movie, one of the greatest thrillers of all times.
greatest. Yeah, it's been spoofed
But
so many times. Very iconic, as you said, with the
like
Simpsons. Like
it's
a
yeah,
great
it's
episode.
it's sideshow Bob. He
Yeah, it's a
is
great
Cape Fear.
episode.
It's
Yeah,
just like that's how great it is that they could like have a character on a show that it's so iconic that you don't even realize. Oh no, this is just this guy from this show. So from this movie. So that's pretty cool. But we just want to see what they're gonna do.
because the only thing here's the thing. Here's the only thing that I can figure out how they will be able to manage this, but I don't know if audience members have the patience to wait that long. Is that they talk about how he first got arrested. So maybe they cover like what happened that got him into prison, and then they have a season where it focuses on that, how he gets in prison. They focus that season of him being in court, and then they focus a season of him being released. But I don't think people have the patience to wait that long when they already know what the story beats are.
Yeah, and maybe they could do like that true crime lane, like because that's a very popular genre
Yeah,
in media right now.
yeah,
I think mostly because it's cheap. Unfortunately, you don't have to. You'd hate to talk about something and say that it's cheap because cheap has such a connotation. But and
yeah.
as far as budgeting a show, if we take a couple of film shots of some news articles and use some old TV, we can make a whole show out of it. Just do some interviews. That don't cost a lot of money. So maybe they'll go that lane where They tried to talk about Katie as if he is, a lot of the true crime focuses on um convicted murderers who possibly didn't do what they said that they did. And maybe they'll take the lane of he may have been wrongly convicted, but now he's out for vengeance. But it just seems like it's just like, it's not enough meat on that bone, essentially. That is what we're saying. It's Thanksgiving time. We know them wings ain't about to be wings, mama. You better turn that into some gravy or something. We're not about to make no meal off of that. We could put it on top of something
Right,
for sure, but
right.
I don't know. I'm really interested because Javier Bardem is a great thriller actor and he's a very intense
He
character.
is.
So I'm
He
interested
is.
in that.
And he
That's
plays
that's very
terrific
interesting.
villains.
Yeah. I'm sure they paid him a
That's what I'm
lot of
saying. Like
money to do the
everything on
show.
paper seems great. That's what I'm saying. Everything on paper seems great. It's just we have a similar concern. We don't feel like there's enough there for a format of a series. So hopefully they surprise us with
Oh. Well, looks like we lost Brandon for a second, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully they surprise us with something good. As you see, this is Javier Bardem, ladies and gentlemen. You've seen No Country for Old Men. He was terrifying in that movie. Absolutely terrifying. So, as Brandon comes back in, I guess I'll just go into my final thoughts. I'm really excited for this. Because like I said, No Country for Old Men might be one of my top 10 movies. Just the cinematography of it. Javier Bardem is the villain. They gave him so many villain roles after this because he was so good, and he's trying to chase it. So maybe this would be the one where he reestablishes himself as a great villain, um, just so that he reminds us that this is what he does. So I'm just ready to see it. Um, we can move on if Brandon is still here. I think he's still here, but we can't see or hear him. Sorry for the difficult. This has been a great show, ladies and gentlemen, but we've had a few difficulties, and we really appreciate you for working through everything with us. So I'm gonna go ahead and do my final thoughts. Again, I'm sorry for telling y'all to go on Pokemon Go again. I don't believe that this is what's happened with the internet. Who knew that social media sites that you don't pay for are making a product out of you? That's just the craziest thing I've ever thought of, and I'm really just shocked and appalled at Pokemon Go. Y'all, we were fighting for you, Pokemon Go. We were all fighting for you. Um, but check me out at Truly Spill on Instagram. You can catch up with me. I won't be posting any more Pokemon Go content on there because it's following us. And they told us they were following us, but I can't believe that they were actually following us. This has just been a terrible, terrible man. He was laughing. He was like, that's kind of nerdy. Even though this is a black nerd podcast, we're still, I'm just so ashamed of Pokemon Go, ladies and gentlemen. They were a great establishment. I was catching Articunos and all kinds of Rhydons and all kinds of Pokemons. You don't know the Pokemon I've caught. Some of them I didn't even know because I had stopped playing Pokemon 20 years ago. But all of that is to say, check us out. Make sure you give us 5 stars. I'm gonna hit you with these because I haven't hit you with these. We like to do two thumbs up. Who's got them? This guy. Very happy. We could throw up some balloons because we like to see the balloons. That's what you guys are here for. I know you're here for it. I'll call you call me Spilly Doll. I love you. We're gonna just ask that you give us subscriptions and come into the show. I'm gonna turn it over to Brandon now. Brandon, are you with us? Okay, Brandon's not with us yet. I can see him here, but I guess he can't talk to us. We appreciate you guys coming along to our podcast and to help us out this week as we talk about the different topics. The Lakers are doing much better. He was talking bad about us when we lost a few games, but now we back up on top and he don't want to say nothing. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We want to talk good about the Lakers. Well, I mean, I don't really talk bad about the Warriors. I just said that they didn't need to pay Clay Thompson all that money. But they didn't. They agreed with me. The front office agreed with me. They knew what they were doing. They got rid of Clay Thompson. It's sad that they had to break up the band, but Clay was complaining too much. He was stealing money. He wasn't playing that good, and he was hurt all the time. We like to see that. That's the heart we're going around, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if we have Brandon back yet. He's got some thoughts, I'm sure, about his Warriors. Not being the best team ever. That's obviously the Lakers. We know that. Um, I'm getting my bars off right here because it's like Brandon's gone. This is my podcast now, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. All Lakers all the time. LeBron James is the greatest of all time. It's not even close. Uh-oh, we've got some movement. Maybe Brandon's back. He's come back. You see that? As soon as I say LeBron is greatest of all time, Brandon regains control. But then he lost again because LeBron is the greatest of all time. There's no one better. You know, he's